Hello, this is Terry from Fabric Junction in Sturgis, South Dakota. Today's block is called End of the Day, and it is an interesting block to put together. Half square triangles and squares, something you're not unfamiliar with. And as you can see, I basically have my center put together, and that's because we've walked through half square triangles many times, which I use my tool to mark, my seam marker, most of the time my pencil, sometimes my white pencil, and I mark, make my half square triangles, and lay them out. And like I said, in this case, you have several half square triangles and squares, just alternating to create this great pattern that I put in this pot holder. So the important part I wanted to show you today is my final assembly of when I put the center together and how to create this nice simple little miter on the border that I added to my pot holder. So there's my pot holder. Here are the blocks that I made for the quilt that I hope to get done one of these days. I keep making blocks for it. You can see the nice contrast between the half square triangles and the squares. Not quite as strong a contrast in here, but that's okay. And as you can see, my sections are still attached because whenever I sew them together, starting from the left, working away my across, they stay together. That way I know, hopefully, they stay in the right order. Double check that my pinwheels are going around the right way, that my outer ones are going around the right way. And then I sew them together. And in this case, I sew one end, and I actually sew the other end. Because this particular project is small, that I sew the other end. And I flip my seam allowances as needed. Even though I've pressed them, sometimes they're not always to the less bulky, or maybe I've got two. In this case, I've got this half square triangle meeting up with this one on this side. And so I want to make sure that they're going the opposite directions. And I'll repress it again once it's sewn. I'll try to cross my little intersections. I'm going to flip this one, I think the other way. Yeah, because the one underneath wants to go towards the needle, so I'll take this one, line him up away from the needle. As you can see, this is the way I tend to do it. I will stop and show you that if you've not sewn a lot and you would like to pin, no problem. We will pin. And in fact, that center section, because of the pinwheel, should be pinned. There we go. Because we have so many parts coming into it and we want it to look really nice, we are going to pin the center. And what I do is I find where I cross over and I stick my pin straight into that. Sometimes it takes me a while to get that exact spot that I want. And then I double check that it's right where those two meet. I find my other one, and in this case I got to attack it from this side, and I slip my pin right in to that intersection. And I actually discover he is not going the same opposite direction, because I want to create that opposite direction movement. There we go. That looks good. Get my pin straight. Once I have my pin straight up and down and I can feel everything wants to lay flat, slip a second pin in so nothing moves, pull him out. Then on the other ones, like I said, if you're not comfortable doing it by feel, that's okay. I started out pinning everything, and after time you just get a feel for some of the pieces on what they should feel like as you sew. And sometimes my seams do get twisted, but I press them then as flat as I possibly can so that they do lay nice. Okay, we're going across. Now I'm aiming for that X because I don't like to bite off my pieces if I can help it. I keep pulling my pins as I go. And did I do it? Not too bad. Kind of nipped one just a little bit, but otherwise not bad. Okay, press so that it's kind of nice and flat. And there's a lot of little bulky seams there that are kind of meeting each other. So now we're going to miter. And to do that, I need to find the center. And I just do a quick little, and I already know the center here because I have 3 seams. So there is my center there. And I'm jumping ahead of myself because I know where I'm going to sew, but I need to show you where you're going to sew. On this particular side, you've got your seam. All you have to do here is take a ruler, something that you can put a little dot on that seam at a 1/4 inch. And right there is my 1/4 inch. And that's where I want to start. And the same on this side. I need to do it on this side. Better turn it. Back it up. Because I want my 1/4 inch mark right on that seam. And my dot's got to be right there. Because when we're doing our miter on this particular one, and because we already have a seam, we know what to line up with. So we need to mark each one of those. So that's the one little nice thing about this, is you've already got kind of a sense of where you need to go. Okay, so that's our start and stop. We want our needle to start and stop right on our dots. So I set it up. Fairly easy to keep moving it around until I know the needle goes right through that dot. And I actually go about 3 stitches forward, and I do about 2 back. And that'll hold it. That'll hold it. I don't want to go clear back into that dot, because generally when I do, I mess it up. So I discovered it. I can secure it by just going back a couple of stitches. So now as I get close, I want to kind of 1 stitch at a time. Find my dot, just a smidgen so it comes right. The stitch wants to go just a little past, and I don't want it to go past my dot. I want it to go into the dot. So once that one goes down, I do back stitch on that one, so that I get 1 stitch into the dot, back stitch. Okay, we have 1 section. Yay! On to the next section. Again, find your center. We already know where center of the block is. We got nice long tails because we want to make sure those are longer than what we actually need, because that makes the mitering that much easier. So now to start, we need to make sure this one is folded back. out of our way. The other one is lined up. Fold it down, find your dot again, and go into that dot. Find it nice. There we go. Again, a couple stitches forward, about 2 stitches back. That one did like the dot. Mark right on time. Okay. I would finish the rest of them, but because I want to show you what to do next. Now, as you noticed, I haven't pressed everything because I need things to kind of bend every direction as I'm sewing. I need it to go up like this when I sew my next, but when I'm finished I actually want that to be pressed downward. But right now I need it to go up and out of my road. So I line up the tail parts, I fold this, and I check to make sure that my underseam, because you want this seam here to line up. So you get that to line up. That's on the up side. You get it all in place. And when I miter, I mark one at a time and I take it immediately to my machine. So I need to find my 45-degree line. I know where my dot is. It actually will line up on my other seam because I want to mark a sewing line. And I want to find my dot. Right there is where I started and stopped. I check my 45, get it up there where it belongs. Check it against my seam allowance, and then mark. Now that's where I'm going to stitch. That is my actual stitch line. So the next thing is to get the needle back in that same spot. Keep my border lined up. And in this case I didn't have to worry about matching any lines on my miter. And again I do about 3 forward, 2 back, and then I stitch right on that line. So now before I cut it, I make sure, oh, I got 1 stitch in the wrong place. Just one. He's holding everything down just a little. So I can take that 1 little stitch out. There he goes. I check to make sure that it's going to lay flat. I trim my extra off. This is one of the few times that I press a seam open. On a miter, it just will be much nicer if you press it open. So I press my seam open, and it's tiny. And then, like I said before, I want all this other to go down. So I want the rest of that corner to go down. And there is my miter. Oh, it came out great once I took that 1 little stitch out of there. So now what you do, go ahead and do the rest of them and create that beautiful miter. If you don't want to, just put a nice simple border, maybe border with cornerstones, your choice. But I thought you might like to see how to add a little bitty miter to your pot holder or whatever project you're working with. Once you have the center done, you need a piece of backing, a batting, and I use a piece of Insulbrite. And that gives me the thickness that I need so that The pot holder actually functions as a pot holder. Get that put together. Place yours on here. Stitch how you would like. I tend to stitch in the ditch, and on this particular one I stitched only if it changed color, so I did not go across here. So you can see that on the back. I didn't cross those little sections because I wanted this to look like a whole piece. So it gives that illusion that this is a whole piece when it is not. Trim it, bind it, check out our how to bind a pot holder, and you'll have your wonderful pot holder done. Thank you for watching us here at Fabric Junction again, and do check us out at junctionfabric.com and our blog, fabricjunctionjewels.blogspot.com. We enjoy having you join us for our videos. Stop by and see us sometime. Thank you again for watching.